A Time magazine journalist reveals the true motivation behind AOC's rise. Democrats reveal their brutally anti-Israel streak, and we check the mailbag. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. What a long and yet beneficial week. So this has been a long but great week. If you haven't picked up a copy of my book, The Right Side of History, yet, go do it now. It is #1 on Amazon. It is #1 in nonfiction on Barnes & Noble. So thank you all if you've already picked up a copy of the book. I'm very proud of it. I think that it's a real useful work, and I think it'll be useful for you and your kids and people that you know. So help us keep it #1. Maybe we'll knock on the door of the top of the New York Times list. That list, by the way, is a joke. I can discuss that a little bit later. Before we do any of that, first, let me remind you, you need better underwear. When men and women upgrade from their shabby, outdated multi-pack underwear to Tommy John, the most comfortable on the planet, they've got a lot to say about it. Like John, whose only regret is that he didn't try Tommy John earlier. Or Julia, who says that Tommy John is so comfortable she forgets she's wearing them. The point is, men and women all across America are crazy about Tommy John. Both Tommy John men and women's underwear sport a no wedgie guarantee. Would help me in high school, comfortable stay-put waistbands, and a range of fabrics that are luxuriously soft and designed to move with you, not against you. Plus, Tommy John has dress shirts and undershirts that always stay tucked, ridiculously soft loungewear, and go-anywhere apparel that is versatile enough to go from boardroom to boxing class. For ladies, check out their new Tommy John Air collection. Tommy John is so sure you're going to love the fit and feel. It's all backed by their best pair you'll ever wear or its free guarantee. That means if you don't love that first pair, you'll get a full refund. Tommy John, no adjustment needed. Hurry over to TommyJohn.com/Ben right now. Get 20% off your first order. That is TommyJohn.com/Ben for 20% off. Again, TommyJohn.com/Ben. How do I know that these underwear are comfortable? Because they're on my tuchus right at this very instant. TommyJohn.com/Ben for 20% off your first order. All right, so a lot to get to here. Expectation is that the Mueller report could drop as early as today. According to NBC News, President Trump on Friday continued to claim there was no collusion between his 2016 presidential campaign and Russia as Washington braces for special counsel Robert Mueller's highly anticipated report. Trump said he has no idea when the report is going to drop. He says, it's all a big hoax. And here's the reality. In all likelihood, this report is not going to contain anything that Democrats can run on. He added that the AG, the Attorney General William Barr, will ultimately make a decision about the report's release. Mueller is supposed to submit the report to Barr at the conclusion of his investigation into the Russian election interference and Trump. Barr is required to notify Congress about Mueller's findings. However, Justice Department regulations do not require Barr to give a comprehensive report to lawmakers. In fact, the report is expected not to be comprehensive. It is expected not to include all sorts of unverified allegations because of current Justice Department regulations. Unlike the Starr investigation, the Justice Department regulations now govern what comes out from the Mueller report. Apparently, they're reporting no more indictments are expected, this is according to ABC News. Jonathan Karl reporting there is no shortage of speculation on the special counsel Robert Mueller's report, much of it totally uninformed. But we don't need to speculate on the scope. The man who appointed Mueller has already given us a potential roadmap on what to expect from the special counsel. The bottom line, do not expect a harsh condemnation of President Trump or any of his associates if they have not been charged with crimes. Why? Because it turns out that prosecutors aren't supposed to just spill their guts into the public unless they are charging you with a crime. It is not their responsibility to inform the public about all of the other various and sundry matters in which you may have been involved. The roadmap comes in the form of a little-noticed 12-page letter written by Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein last June, the much maligned Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein. Trump dislikes him. The letter was written to Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley. The letter was in response to Grassley's demands for more information on the special counsel investigation, and it offers a brief history of special counsel investigations. It actually quotes former and future AG William Barr, who appointed 3 special counsels during his time as AG under President George H.W. Bush. In the letter, Rosenstein makes it clear he believes the DOJ will not and cannot, without violating long-standing Department of Justice policy, include disparaging or incriminating information about anybody who has not been charged with a crime. So don't expect this thing to be a 500-page Ken Starr compendium of details about Donald Trump's private life. Rosenstein wrote, punishing wrongdoers through judicial proceedings is only one part of the department's mission. We also have a duty to prevent the disclosure of information that would unfairly tarnish people who are not charged with crimes. Sources familiar with the investigation believe there are no more indictments coming from the special counsel. Mika Brzezinski was reading this story on air this morning on Morning Joe, and you could see her face collapse. I mean, she was really upset about this, that there were no more indictments expected from the special counsel. If that's all that Mueller's got, This thing has been a giant waste of time, legitimately. Like, if all he came up with is a bunch of people who lied to the FBI about ancillary matters, going to jail for a bunch of random stuff for very short periods of time for the most part, if all that came out of this was that they nailed Paul Manafort for being a violator of the Foreign Registration Act, the Foreign Lobbyist Registration Act, and all they got out of this was Michael Cohen and taxi medallions, my goodness, what a waste of America's time and money. Rosenstein is emphatic on this point. He says, in fact, disclosing uncharged allegations against American citizens without a law enforcement need is considered to be a violation of a prosecutor's trust, which of course makes sense. What you don't want is people being tried in the court of public opinion based on information that wasn't strong enough to prosecute in the first place. Later in the letter, Rosenstein says he makes this standard clear to anyone under investigation, even public officials. He says no matter who an investigation involves, an ordinary citizen, a local or state politician, a campaign official, a foreign agent, an officer of the federal legislative, executive, or judicial branch, agents and prosecutors are obligated to protect its confidentiality. Now, I know there are a lot of people who are on the left listening to this, and they're thinking, wait a second, didn't James Comey come out about Hillary Clinton and give a full explanation of their entire investigation before recommending that she not be indicted? The answer is yes, and that's why James Comey should have been fired at the time. When James Comey came forward and exonerated Hillary Clinton on charges for which she should have been indicted, he should have either shut up and said no indictment necessary, or he should have come forward and indicted. He split the baby, and it ended up costing Hillary Clinton the presidency, at least quite plausibly. In this letter from last year, Rosenstein directly takes issue with the justification then FBI Director James Comey used to publicly criticize Hillary Clinton in 2016, even as he decided not to charge her with a crime. At the time, Comey justified the break with longtime DOJ practice as an extraordinary step necessary because of circumstances so unusual they were comparable to a 500-year flood. That's because Comey was an idiot and terrible at his job. Rosenstein wrote, "It is important for the DOJ to follow established procedures, especially when the stakes are high." Rosenstein is correct. James Comey, by the way, the reason he did that is because he knew that Hillary Clinton probably should have been indicted. But as testimony now from Lisa Page and Peter Strzok has established, the Obama DOJ crammed down on the FBI that she would not be indicted. And thus, James Comey decided to take it on his own shoulders, the hit. He decided that to preserve the reputation of both the FBI and DOJ, he would come clean with the American public. He did a deep disservice to both Hillary Clinton and the general public in doing what he did. He should have been fired forthwith. But the fact is that the Obama administration wanted him to do that because they figured that it would end up getting Hillary Clinton off the hook, not costing her the presidency. Of course, they ended up figuring wrong. So if the Mueller report drops today, obviously, all the presses will stop. It will be the big deal. We will see what is in this thing, presumably pretty quickly, because you assume there's not going to be a long turnaround time between Mueller releasing the report and William Barr condensing that report and releasing it to Congress, in which case it'll be leaked to the public in relatively short order. But this is good for President Trump. This timeline is good for President Trump, assuming there's no deeply damning material in the report. And there is one exception. It is possible that Mueller, if he thinks these offenses are impeachable but not criminal, could in fact include a lot of detail in this report simply to justify his time expenditure on this thing. But if it ends up that there's not much here, and we are getting rid of this in March of 2019, not in November of 2020, that is very good news for President Trump. He can then move on, and we won't have to hear President Trump fulminate, except that he will rightly say that he is going to be continued to be targeted by the Democratic House for a bunch of investigations that the Mueller investigation has already concluded are unnecessary. But that is where this is moving. If it turns out that the Mueller indictments are a big nothing, there are no more indictments, if the Mueller report is essentially an empty bag, and Democrats continue to launch investigations into matters already covered by Mueller, Trump is always going to be able to say, listen, he said I didn't obstruct justice. He said I didn't collude with Russia. And now you're coming after me for the same exact crap simply to smear me? Obviously, this is politically motivated. There is no real serious allegation that I impeded the Mueller investigation at any step along the way. See, this is the thing. All the folks on the left who keep claiming that Trump obstructed justice, there is no actual evidence of Trump obstructing justice. He's tweeted a few times at people like Michael Cohen. That is the closest you can come to an argument that he obstructed justice. It is not like when Bill Clinton legitimately told people to lie to the FBI for him, like directly told people to do this, according to the Starr report, and according to testimony from those people. That's what Bill Clinton was caught up on. There's nothing like that in the Trump case, at least so far as I can remember or see, and we've been through a lot of this material. What that means is that if the Democrats continue to press on this score, they're going to be seen as vindictive. They're going to be seen as petty. And they could get caught up in this thing for the next 2 years as a sort of fan service. It's funny, sometimes you watch movies and the movies have plot lines that make no sense, kind of ancillary plot lines that make no sense. You're like, why don't you just stick to the main plot line? And then you'll hear inevitably, oh, this was fan service. This is particularly true in comic book movies. There's some sort of plot line that nobody cares about. And you're like, why is this here? Oh, because it was in the comics. And there's a small group of fans who desperately wanted to see this character from the comics. It's fan service. The Democratic Party has to decide whether it wants to be a fan service party or whether it wants to win the 2020 election. It can't have both. If the Democrats decide to be a fan service party and spend all of their time launching foolish investigations into President Trump, Trump is rightly going to be able to say, you guys are wasting your time and my money and everybody's money on your dumb investigations instead of focusing in on the issues at hand. And then his fulmination will actually have some teeth to it. Him fulminating against Mueller never made any sense. Mueller works for the executive branch. Him fulminating against Jeff Sessions, the AG, didn't make any sense either. Jeff Sessions worked for him and was selected by him. Rod Rosenstein works for President Trump. They're all in the executive branch. But Trump fulminating at Congress, that is a tried, tested, and true strategy for winning re-election. This has been true ever since Harry Truman won re-election in 1948 on the back of arguing that he had to deal with a do-nothing Republican Congress. And he pulled his chestnuts out of the fire against Thomas Dewey. This has been a long-standing historical running strategy by presidents. President Obama, by the way, did the same thing in 2012. He said, we were going great guns until 2010, and now we're being obstructed, and I'm running against a do-nothing, useless Congress. And then he won re-election. Trump can do the same thing now. So in a certain way, it could be a blessing in disguise if Democrats decide to investigate him up the wazoo. Yeah, it'll be a pain in the butt. Yeah, it's bad for all the people who work for President Trump who are going to have to lawyer up and spend a lot of money to defend themselves against dumb investigations. But it does give Trump something to run on that is not the Democrats calling him a deplorable human being. Okay, in just a second, we will discuss an amazing Time magazine cover piece about AOC. First, let's talk about how you can make your back and neck feel better. I want to talk about teeter inversion table. It may sound weird. Hanging upside down is actually a great way to decompress the back and joints after a workout and boost recovery. So you might not think it, but I do work out a lot. Underneath this blazer lies the body of a Greek god. But along with those workouts come a bit of back stress. And that is why I use the teeter inversion table. This is called inversion therapy. It uses gravity and your own body weight to decompress the spine and release tension in your shoulders, neck, and joints. Inverting after your workout boosts the recovery process by stretching and elongating your spine and joints, rehydrating the discs, and relaxing tired muscles. Decompressing on a teeter inversion table for just a few minutes a day is a great addition to your daily routine to maintain a healthy back and joints. I love this thing. It is the best inversion table on the market. Over 3 million people have put their trust in Teeter. They've been the best known name in inversion tables since 1981. They're offering a great deal just for my listeners right now. For a limited time, you can get the brand new 2019 Teeter FitSpine inversion table model with bonus accessories and a free pair of gravity boots so you can invert at home or take the boots with you to the gym. And with this deal, you'll get $150 off when you go to teeter.com/Ben. You also get free shipping, free return, 60-day money-back guarantee. So there's no risk to you. Go check it out right now, teeter.com/Ben. That is teeter.com/Ben, and get that new 2019 Teeter FitSpine inversion table plus a free pair of gravity boots. All of that with $150 off when you go to teeter.com/Ben. Go check them out right now. Make your back feel better today. Okay, so as I say, the Democrats are in a bit of trouble if they have staked all of their claim to the presidency on the back of Trump colluded with Russia. And they boxed themselves in here. They couldn't accept the fact that Trump won the election. In the same way that Stacey Abrams in Georgia refuses to accept that she lost her election for governor of Georgia, and now the Democrats are trying to elevate her. This seems like a failed strategy. It used to be in American politics that if you lost, you went away. The idea was that if you lost, you went away, and we didn't really want to hear from you because we had rejected you. And if you wanted to run again later in some other lane, you did that, right? Mitt Romney. No one wanted to hear from Mitt Romney after he lost in 2012. There wasn't a lot of talk about voter fraud or Mitt Romney being jobbed out of being the president of the United States. He sort of went away, and then the Republican Party moved on, and then he ran for Senate in Utah, and he won. And now we care what he thinks again. But until then, not so much. John Kerry, after he lost in 2004, went away. Al Gore, after he lost in 2000, went away. Now Democrats, after they lose, say that they didn't lose, and then not only don't they go away, they rip on the institutions of American government and suggest that because they didn't really lose, the other person in office is illegitimate. If that's your best shot at president, I literally do not understand the strategy. I legitimately don't understand that strategy. It's not like President Trump doesn't provide them fodder to run on every day. But if they are fully invested in the narrative that Hillary Clinton is the actual president of the United States, and thus the best attack on President Trump is that he is illegitimate, that sort of stuff does not carry weight with the American public, for whom President Trump has been the legitimate president since his election in 2016. Again, that doesn't mean Democrats aren't going to show up. They will. They don't like President Trump. But if your best shot at Trump is Russian collusion after all of this, man, what a disappointment you're going to be to the vast majority of Americans in the upcoming election cycle. Okay, meanwhile, the true star of the Democratic Party, so fresh, so incredibly fresh, and so incredibly faced, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Wow, she is so fresh and so faced. She's on the cover of Time magazine today. Now, we here at the Ben Shapiro Show are obviously obsessed with her because we talk about her when she's on the cover of Time magazine, just like we talk about other politicians when they're on the cover of Time magazine. And just like we cover politicians when Tom Perez calls them the new fresh face of the Democratic Party. But there is an amazing piece by a woman named Charlotte Alter over at Time magazine. And the piece is a window into the utter ingratitude of an entire generation of people in the United States. I'm talking about people my age, around my age and younger. AOC is only about 5 years younger than I am. So Charlotte Alter says, change is closer than we think. Inside AOC's unlikely rise. Her piece says, every 10 minutes or so, someone knocks on the big wooden door of AOC's office on Capitol Hill. The noise makes staffers stiffen. It's almost always a harmless fan, one of dozens who arrive each day, leaving neon-colored Post-it notes as devotional offerings. But in her first 3 months in Congress, aides say, enough people have threatened to murder Ocasio-Cortez that Capitol Police trained her staff to perform risk assessment of her visitors. This is the daily reality for America's newest human Rorschach test. Wonder Woman of the left, Wicked Witch of the right, Ocasio-Cortez has become the second most talked about politician in America after the President of the United States. That's not actually true. If you look at the number of Google mentions of AOC, she does follow Joe Biden. She follows Beto O'Rourke. She follows Bernie Sanders. She follows Nancy Pelosi in many cases. But never mind. She's very fresh and very face. Now, here's what I love about this. The entire article is about how AOC has lived a suffering life. The entire article is about how AOC understands the plight of young people who are truly suffering in today's America. And yet it contains this line. At the same time, she's a freshman legislator trying to get the hang of her first big full-time job. She's 29 years old. This is her first big full-time job in Congress? That does not sound like a life of hardship in the United States. Going to Boston University, being given a degree for learning apparently nothing, working at various odd jobs while your parents are upper middle income, and your first big-time job is in Congress, that doesn't sound like a rags to riches story. That sounds like a some riches to more riches story. And yet, she is a suffering servant. She's a suffering servant, according to Charlotte Alter. I miss being able to go outside in sweats, she says in her office one day in March, settling into a black leather chair after a long day of subcommittee hearings. She's much smaller than she looks on TV, with a warm but cautious manner. Oh my God, the hagiography. I can't go anywhere in public and just be a person without a lot of people watching everything I do. Oh, poor you. Welcome to the club. And come on, who cares? AOC represents one vision of the Democratic Party's future. She's a young Hispanic woman, 3 cornerstones of the party's electoral coalition. She's a democratic socialist at a time when confidence in capitalism is declining, especially among progressive millennials. And then this article just goes on to talk about how wonderful she is in every aspect. She's wonderful and caring and decent and terrific. I love this. On Ocasio-Cortez's office bookshelf, near a picture of her late father and a photo of her with a local Girl Scout troop, 2 books nestle together in uneasy union. One is the Federalist Papers, written mostly by James Madison and Alexander Hamilton and published in 1788. The other is The Uninhabitable Earth, Life After Warming, written by journalist David Wallace Wells 231 years later. There's a picture of Wonder Woman leaning in one corner of the office and a giant cardboard cutout of Cardi B's face in another. Oh, wow, she's unbelievable. She's amazing. Now, here is where things become hilarious. They say she was born into a working-class family in the Parkchester section of the Bronx. Yeah, her family moved out of there real fast into a pretty upper-income area of New York. As Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire has pointed out, he grew up in the neighboring county, which was not quite as wealthy. Her dad owned a small architecture company. Her Puerto Rico-born mother cleaned houses. They were deeply rooted in the neighborhood, but also wary of its limitations. Ocasio-Cortez has told friends she learned early on that wearing hoop earrings and the nameplate necklaces was fine in the Bronx, but she wouldn't be taken seriously if she wore them to a job interview. The family moved to the prosperous Westchester County suburb of Yorktown Heights when she was about 5. 5. So the first part of that paragraph makes it sound as though she lived her entire life growing up in the Bronx, and then she moved into the upper echelons of American society. Her family moved into a nice area when she was 5. 5. She describes herself as a dorky kid who once asked for a microscope for her birthday. Her 2007 high school microbiology project on the effect of antioxidants on the lifespan of roundworms won second place in the microbiology category at the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. She often joined her mom to clean the homes of neighbors, and she wrote her college application essay about 2 of them helping a man who lost the wife the only way they could by cleaning out his fridge. She took out student loans to enroll at BU. Wow. I mean, unlike everyone else, she took out loans to go to college. Wow, she really must have been hard up. Graduating in 2011 with a degree in economics and international relations. By the way, she knows nothing about either of those 2 things. That shows you how crappy our colleges are. Now, the part of this that is really galling is not that Time magazine put her on its cover. The media have been pushing her since she defeated Joe Crowley with like 15,000 votes in a deep blue area in a plurality Hispanic congressional district. People treat this as though it's a massive shocker. It was only a massive shocker if you weren't following the race all that closely, is sort of the truth. But regardless, you don't want to diminish her accomplishment. She won 15,000 votes in a heavily blue suburb that was majority or plurality Hispanic against a white guy who was not super popular and didn't spend a lot of time in his home district, reportedly. In any case, regardless, she won, but she was immediately elevated to the upper echelons of Democratic leadership, and the real reason is because she's attractive, and she looks like she's having a good time, and she's kind of fun, and she knows how to use Instagram, and she has an Instant Pot and all the rest of this. But Charlotte Alter, the columnist of Time, is what I actually want to talk about, not AOC, because she spilled the beans on why it is that millennials think like AOC. And it is pretty astonishing. It is pretty astonishing and pretty damning. If you're a millennial and you think like AOC because you think like Charlotte Alter, you need to get your head straightened out because you are not being accurate about the state of the world. I'll explain in just 1 second. First, let's talk about how you keep your home safer. Ring's mission is to make neighborhoods safer. You might already know about their smart video doorbells and cameras that protect millions of people everywhere. Ring helps you stay connected to your home anywhere in the world. So if there's a package delivery or a surprise visitor, you'll get an alert and be able to see, hear, and speak to them all from your phone. That's thanks to HD video and 2-way audio features on Ring devices. I have a Ring device on my front door. That means if somebody rings the doorbell and they may not be somebody who I'm interested in letting into my house, I can let them know that from 3,000 miles away, and they don't know that I'm not home. Ring is fantastic for monitoring what's going on at your property, at your house, or at your apartment. As a listener, you now have a special offer on a Ring starter kit available right now. There's a video doorbell and a motion-activated floodlight cam, and the starter kit has everything you need to start building a ring of security around your home. Just go to ring.com/Ben. That is ring.com/Ben if you're concerned about your home security. And let me tell you, if you live in big cities like Los Angeles, if you live in a big city anywhere around the country, you got to be worried about your safety on your property simply because the governing coalitions have done such a poor job of keeping big cities safe from property crime these days. Go to ring.com/Ben. Go check them out, ring.com/Ben. right now, and they have a special offer on a Ring starter kit available, so you're going to get some money off. Go check them out, ring.com/Ben. Okay, so the real story here is not AOC. The real story is the columnist who wrote about her, Charlotte Alter. So Charlotte Alter has been appearing on all the major media to talk up her big news story about AOC. Yeah, she's the best. So Charlotte Alter suggested that AOC's dominance is inevitable. Inevitable. This is what she suggested.
Her ascent is inevitable.
And honestly, it is in some ways. And the thing about AOC and the reason that she is, I think, tapping into something that is so exciting to some and threatening to others is that she is really bringing us into the politics of the 21st century. She is a 21st century leader trying to tackle 21st century problems in a body that is largely dominated by 20th century thinking.
Okay, what the hell is she even talking about? That makes no sense. Why is this person a columnist? Why is this person a reporter? She calls herself a journalist for Time magazine, just writing these drooling pieces about AOC. And then she says the reason that people are upset at AOC is because they're just jealous. It's not that AOC is completely ignorant and says dumb things and gets massive media attention. It's just pure jealousy. Pure jealousy. Weird, because I don't really feel jealous of her as much as I feel angry at the media for having decided that her ideas are worth airing and defending, despite the fact that they are unintelligible masses of gibberish. Here is Charlotte Alter playing defense as a journalist for AOC. Again, she's a journalist, folks. Don't worry, the media are not biased in any way.
There are certainly some Democrats who are a little annoyed that she's getting so much airspace and so many headlines. And they think that, frankly, I think seem a little jealous that she's getting so much attention. They would like to be on the cover of Time magazine. But everyone that we spoke to who's worked with her has said that she's kind, she's prepared, she shows up, she does her homework.
Oh, well, everyone you spoke to, is it? Maybe you might want to broaden that circle out from her immediate family and people she pays. Because if you actually talk to anyone in the Democratic caucus who knows anything, they are all deeply unhappy with the fact that AOC is constantly stepping all over every serious legislative proposal they put out. But that's not even the key here. Here is the key. Charlotte Alter tweets this out. She tweets out, AOC and I were born the same year. Remember, she's a journalist, folks. She's not the official autobiographer. She's not a ghostwriter for AOC. She's a journalist. Quote, AOC and I were born the same year. She was a Dunkaroos kid. I liked fruit roll-ups. People our age have never experienced American prosperity in our adult lives, which is why so many millennials are embracing democratic socialism. You have got to be kidding me. People our age have never experienced American prosperity in our adult lives? You spoiled child. You spoiled brat. And AOC, you spoiled child. You spoiled brat. AOC writes, yes, and this is not just my story. This is true of wide swaths of our entire generation who are now poised to become a much more influential civic and electoral bloc as we mature into our 30s and beyond. Wow. So it's so tough to be a millennial. Wow, it's so brutal to be a millennial. Shut your head. Honestly, shut your head. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You are living the best life any people have ever lived on planet Earth. You're living in a country where you can say anything you want. You're living in a place where you have more income than anyone in history, where with a touch of a button, any product anywhere on Earth will arrive at your door in 3 days for the cheapest available price. You're living in a world where your chances of starvation are zero, where your chances of homelessness are effectively zero if you have any sort of social fabric or any money at all. A world in which you live in a nation with 3.8% unemployment and 7 million unfilled jobs, where your poverty line involves having a microwave, a car, a stove, and a TV. You're whining about poverty? You? Charlotte Alter is whining about poverty? Really? Okay, Charlotte Alter also tweeted out, in order to understand AOC, you have to look at what she experienced and what she didn't. Red Scare, Reaganomics, and prosperous 90s were all before her time. Her adulthood was defined by financial crisis, debt, and climate change. No wonder she and her peers are moving left. If you think that living in the 2000s and the 2010s is brutal, you're a doof. You don't know anything about history. You don't know anything about any place else on planet Earth. You're dumb. You're ignorant. I mean, I don't mean to be insulting, but I do. I'm sorry. I do mean to be insulting because these ideas are laughable. Charlotte Alter complaining about the difficulties of millennials. Let me tell you something about Charlotte Alter, okay? We're going to talk about for a second who this woman is who is claiming that as a millennial, you have never experienced prosperity. Charlotte Alter was born in 1990. 1990, okay, so that means that she is 29 years old? She's the same age as AOC. Her father is Jonathan Alter. He's a columnist for Newsweek and a correspondent for NBC News. He's one of the more famous political commentators of the modern world. Her mother was Emily, executive producer on The Colbert Report on Comedy Central. Her grandmother was the first woman elected to public office in Cook County, Illinois. Her uncle was the CEO of Sony. She went to Harvard University and then worked at HBO and now has a show on Sirius XM. Oh, the suffering. Oh, the humanity. Charlotte Alter and her peers, they've never experienced prosperity. Ever. It's just incredible. I mean, what unbelievable. Listen, I know that there are some people in America who are experiencing poverty. I know there are some people in America who grew up in single-parent households and really had to struggle to get ahead. I know there's some people in America living in areas where the jobs have left, but they're nothing compared to Charlotte Alter. I mean, my goodness. Imagine the difficulty of having to grow up in a house where your mom produces for Comedy Central and your dad is one of the more famous columnists in the West. Just imagine how rough that must be. I weep for her. I weep for her. It's always astonishing to me to watch people who've really had it pretty good in the United States whine about how rough they have it in the United States. Like me, I've had it great in the United States. I don't whine about having it rough because I've had it great. Okay, and I grew up in a 2-bedroom house in Burbank, California that fit 6 people. It was like an 1,100 square foot house. It fit 6 people. It had 1 bathroom. I slept in the same bedroom as my 3 younger sisters until I was 11 years old. And you know what? My life was phenomenal. I had 2 parents who loved me. I lived in a neighborhood where all of us knew each other. There was a social fabric because America is freaking great. America is terrific. Millennials whining about how rough they have it while chomping down on avocado toast is one of the more obnoxious phenomena of our modern world. Learn a thing. A thing. In a second, I'm going to show you some charts to demonstrate that it's not just Charlotte Alter's story, that millennials have actually been pretty well off, that they stand on a 3,000-year tradition of a West that has produced prosperity, science, decency, morality, and democracy. And then they sit there and whine about it all day and talk about tearing it down in favor of a socialist utopia that has never existed and will never exist. I'm going to show you the stats that show that Charlotte Alter is not an outlier in terms of being benefited from being in the United States. I have some charts and facts and figures, which mean more than Charlotte Alter's tweets about Dunkaroos. By the way, the fact that I don't even know why she's suggesting that she was eating Dunkaroos is some sign of poverty. When I was a kid, that's all I wanted. Like Dunkaroos, I don't think were kosher, and I was always looking at the commercials on TV, and I'm like, God, those look fantastic. Like cookies that you dip into chocolate dip, and it comes in a package? That's amazing. And in a second, we'll get to all of that. First, I want to mention that you should go over and subscribe over at dailywire.com. $9.99 a month gets you a subscription to dailywire.com. $99 a year gets you a subscription, plus, that's an annual subscription, it's cheaper. Plus, you get this, the Leftist Tears hot or cold tumbler. Cast your eyes upon it. It is phenomenal. As a thank you to our Daily Wire annual subscribers, we would like to give a shout out to a different subscriber every Friday. Today, Merp at New Tweet Who Dis. We salute you. You can see in this photo that Merp has made 3 excellent choices. First, he became a Daily Wire annual subscriber. That's how he got a Leftist Tears tumbler. Second, he bought my brand new best-selling book, The Right Side of History, #1 on Amazon, #1 nonfiction in Barnes & Noble. And finally, he included those 2 things in a photo with the hashtag Leftist Tears tumbler. Merp, if that is your real name, thank you for being a subscriber. We really appreciate it. Now, if you want a chance at being featured on the show, become a Daily Wire annual subscriber if you're not already one. Post a photo of your tumbler on Twitter or Instagram. You can even be in the photo if you would like. To become a subscriber, go to dailywire.com, click on the subscribe button at the top of the page, and simply subscribe. You get all sorts of goodies. You get to ask me questions during the additional 2 hours every day we do of the show behind the paywall that you get to access. And you can listen to it on talk radio, or you can get it commercial-free on demand by subscribing over at dailywire.com and listen to it at your desk. So go check it out right now. Also, you can ask us questions during the break sometimes. I think we're doing that today. We also give you access to ask questions during the conversation. You just have all sorts of goodies. You get the Sunday specials on Saturday. This week we have Dr. Stephen Meyer, who is a philosopher of science talking about intelligent design, which is really interesting stuff. You get that on Saturday. Go check all of this stuff out over at dailywire.com. And make sure to subscribe at YouTube and iTunes as well. Leave us a review. We always appreciate it. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast and radio show in the nation.